Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on this annual City of the Address. I know all of you have busy schedules, so I really want to thank you for being here. I'd especially like to thank the very talented Newark Memorial High School Advanced Choir for this afternoon's performance. The group has been participating in our annual State of the City Address for quite some time now, and we truly look forward to the performances each year. These are some very talented students, and we couldn't be more proud to share them with you today. Choir Director Joanne Hong and choir members, we want to thank you for taking part in our address this afternoon and making it extra special. Let's give them a big round of applause. I'd also like to introduce my colleagues on the Newark City Council who joined me in welcoming you today. Vice Mayor Anna Apodaca, our longest-serving council member now, Councilmember Louis Freitas. Councilmember Susie Collazo. And our rookie council member, Bob Marshall. And from our Planning Commission today, Chairperson Janet Drews, Vice Chair Bill Fitz, Commissioners Glenn Kramer, Marla Blowers, Karen Bridges, and Bernie Neo. And our newest Planning Commissioner, Teresa Ballard Diaz. And now taking a bow for our entire staff, City Manager John Becker. I want to give many thanks to the Newark Chamber of Commerce for hosting today's luncheon. I'd like to thank Linda Ashley, President and CEO of the Chamber, as well as members of the Newark Chamber of Commerce for the support that they provide to the betterment of our city and our business community. And to all of our distinguished guests this afternoon, thank you for taking time to join us. You know, this speech has seemed to have drawn a lot of interest lately, so much so that even I'm kind of wondering what I'm going to say. I've been Newark's mayor now for almost 4 months, actually 132 days, 17 and a half hours, but who's keeping track? People are asking me how I like being mayor, and depending on the day or the latest news, my answer is either Dave Smith lied to me, or I have a new appreciation for Dave Smith. I really don't know how anyone in their right mind could do this for 33 years. It's a lot different being a council member than being a mayor. The biggest difference I find is that now I've got to pay attention to things that were just automatic with Dave. In all seriousness, I really do have a greater appreciation for Dave Smith and the job he did as mayor. Speaking of former Mayor Dave Smith, we were going to name a street after him today, but we couldn't find one wide enough. He really is a nice guy, though. You know, he emailed me recently and said, you know, you're probably going to be pretty nervous at this speech, and if you don't want me to come, I'll just stay home. But, you know, so he was going to leave it up to me. Well, you know, I've kind of been the recipient of 33 years of speeches by Dave Smith, and my name seemed to have been mentioned in those things for each time. So payback is what they say. For this year's State of the City Address, I'm going to focus on a few major topics. These will include the city's financial status, economic development, and an important project that is currently underway, the update of the city's general plan. Before I get into that subject, I'd like to briefly review the status of the city's budget situation. Since 2006, we've had to pare down operations to match a loss of revenue of over $28 million. This wasn't easy. It was accomplished by making some very painful reductions in our operating budget. These have included reducing staff by 1/3, furloughing employees, reducing pay for employees, and generally asking the remaining staff to do more with less, making severe service cuts, eliminating programs, and closing facilities. As a way of making up part of the revenue loss, we proposed a utility users tax. A first measure, Measure L, was narrowly defeated at the polls. A second measure, Measure U, was subsequently placed before the voters, and through the careful guidance of Vice Mayor Akpadaka and members of the Measure U committee, this measure was passed by a wide margin. The tax was estimated to restore about $2.3 million to our budget. Last May, the City Council appropriated Measure U funding for a budget restoration plan that restored some of the services and programs that had been cut over the previous years. We reopened the Senior Center in July of 2011. We added 2 police officers, including a detective and a school resource officer. We reinstated the Neighborhood Watch program and implemented a volunteers in policing program. We added additional parks and landscape staffing. This allowed us to improve park maintenance, including more watering, planting, and turf repair. We were able to increase our street sweeping from once every 2 months to monthly. We reinstated the Ash Street Summer Program, which provides a free summer program to over 200 at-risk youth. We reinstated funding for the School Crossing Guard program, and we added community preservation staffing to improve our code enforcement efforts. We began rebuilding our fiscal reserves, which were completely depleted in balancing previous year's budgets. The budget restoration plan took a conservative approach to expending the utility users' tax revenue. It included a significant amount of the Measure U revenue to rebuild our fiscal reserves and invest in major equipment replacement. We're definitely not out of the woods yet, but we are in better condition than we were a few years ago. As a result of our continued belt tightening, and with the revenues from Measure U, we'll be able to balance our budget for the next 2 years' budget cycle and anticipate a modest surplus in each of the next 2 years. This, of course, assumes no surprises. We continue to monitor issues and events that can and will impact our budget situation in the future. The 2 primary issues are state actions that continue to siphon revenues from the city and rising employee pension costs. Both of these have the potential for significantly impacting our budget in future years.